Good morning. This is your math sensei, Mr. Spensei, and we're going to go through a test review where we're going to look at things that probably will be on your test tomorrow. So, for the warm up, simplify the following expressions. Notice it says the word simplify, which means we're not actually solving. So, in this case, that means we're going to be combining like terms and using the distributed property, one or both of those things at the same time. So in this first case, I see parentheses, so I need to multiply and distribute across. And 7 times 3 is 21. So this is 21x. The 3 is positive, and the 7 is negative. So using the triangle, we know that this is a negative 21. All right. And then 7 times 4 gives me 28y. And a negative and a negative equals a positive. So that right there is our answer. That we can't simplify it any farther than that. All right, missing a parenthesis here, but we're going to need to distribute. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 2 is 18. We have a 6x. So at this point, I need to combine like terms. The 6x and a 45x will give me 51x. And that's my simplified solution. All right, moving on to the next one. No, be careful here. There's a 1 that's missing, so it's negative 3 times 1 is negative 3x, and negative 3 times 10 is negative 30. All we can do is distribute. Our final answer is negative 3x minus 30y. Okay, here we're distributing the 7, and we're getting 21x plus 56, and we have the 4x in front. We can combine like terms, the 4x and the 21x, and we get 25x plus 56. All right, we're going to solve some literal equations. All right, so this says solve for B, or solve for M. So this is what I'm looking for. Always move the terms with the plus or minus first. So in this case, we're going to do this by doing a minus B. And now I have y minus b equals mx. Well, what that means is m parentheses x, and we're solving for m, so I need to divide both sides by x, because this is currently being multiplied. That's what the parentheses mean. We have to do undo multiplication by doing division. And so we end up with m equals y minus b over x. All right. Here it says solve for b. Once again, we're going to move the terms that are plus or minus. So I need to move this ax. It doesn't have a plus sign, but we know it's positive because it doesn't have a sign at all. So I need to move this ax. I'm going to do that by doing the opposite, which is a minus ax. This goes away, and now I have by equals c minus ax. Now these are essentially in parentheses. It means we're multiplying, so I have to undo the multiplication by division. So the y's go away, and I have b equals c minus ax over y. On the next one, it says solve for m. Well, this one happens to be really fast and really easy, although it looks scary, because m is essentially in parentheses, which means this is being multiplied by this group, which means all I have to do is undo the multiplication by opposite operations or inverse operation. This goes away, and now I have y minus y2 over x minus x1 equaling m. So my final answer is m is y minus y2 over x minus x1. All right, this one, we're solving for y2. This is a little more difficult. All right, So we're looking for this. Well, I'm going to put this in parentheses and I'm going to rewrite this so that I have plenty of room to work. M equals y2 minus y1 divided by parentheses x2 minus x1. Well, I need to get to this y2, which means I need to get rid of all this division part. And I can undo division by doing multiplication. So this goes away. Now I have m parentheses x2 minus x1 equals y2 minus y1. I need to move the y1 to the other side. And it's a negative, so I'm going to do the opposite, which is addition. So this goes away. And now I have m times x2 minus x1 plus y1 equals m. So m equals, it's not m equals y2. But let me rewrite that in red. So y2 equals m times x2 minus x1 plus y1 on the end. All right. So hopefully that helps with that. I'm going to pause this for a moment. All right, so now we're going to look at solving some equations and inequalities using Desmos and then going back and showing our work. So first off, I need to put this in a form that Desmos will accept, which means I need to change all the variables to an n. So this is 0.75 parenthesis n plus 20 squiggle 2 plus 0.5 parenthesis x minus 2. Oh, excuse me, n minus 2. All right, I'm going to switch over real quickly to Desmos. At least I hope it's going to be this quickly. All right, so typing in 0.75 parentheses n plus 20 close the parentheses squiggle 2 plus 0.5 parentheses n minus 2 close those parentheses and we get negative 56. So we know our answer for this one is n equals negative 56. Okay, now that we've done that, we need to go back and show our work because this will get us the correct answer so we can check ourselves, but it's not going to get us credit. So please remember, ends without anything without a number has a 1 in front of it. So we're going to need to distribute across, and 0.75 times 1 gives me 0.75 n. 0.75 times 20, you can use the calculator on Desmos. I'm not going to switch back. I'm just going to use the calculator so you can see it. So 0.75 times 20 is 15 plus 15 equals 2 plus point, got to distribute again. And that's 0.5 times n is 0.5 n, and then 0.5 times negative 2 is negative 1. All right, the parentheses are gone, so I need to look for like terms. I don't have any like terms on this side, so I can just copy this down. So this is 0.75 n plus 15. 2 minus 1 is 1 plus 0.5 n. All right, next thing, I need to move my variables to the same side, and we always want variables on the left because that helps us when we go to graph. So I need to move this 0.5. So this is minus 0.5 n. So this becomes 0.25 n plus 15 equals 1. I need to move my constants, and I have two constants. I have a 15 and a 1. I need to move away from the variable because the goal is to isolate the variable. So we need to minus 15. So now I have 0.25 n equals negative 14. At this point, I need to divide both sides by 0.25. And what does that give me? 1n equals, well, let's try it out. So negative 14 divided by 0.25 equals negative 56. So once again, n equals negative 56. And that matches what we got from the Desmos. So we must have done it correctly. All right, the next problem, we're going to write that out so it'll, like it will in Desmos. So this will be 3/4 parenthesis 12n minus 8 squiggle 12. All right, switching back over to Desmos. And we just go 3/4 parenthesis, backspace, arrow, parenthesis, 12n minus 8, close the parenthesis, equals 12. Now, I have a problem. I put an equal sign. Can't have that. It has to be a squiggle. Okay, when I change it to the squiggle, I got an answer. It tells me n equals 2. So I'm noting that down, and we're going to switch back so we can actually show our work to receive credit. This gives us the right answer to check, but now we need to show our work to get credit. Well, I need to distribute a 3/4. I find that if I have fractions, I'm better off putting them in parentheses. So let's do that. And then we'll use this instead of the Desmos calculator. So parenthesis 3 divided by 4, close parenthesis. All right, so I get 9n. And then I need to do parenthesis 3 divided by 4, close parenthesis. Don't forget that is a negative 8. So make sure you have the negative sign. And we get negative 6. So 9n minus 6 equals 12. Well, the nice thing, and we don't need that parenthesis there. That doesn't need to be there. So mark that out in red. So that doesn't need to be there. So I need to move this 6 to the other side. I'm going to do that by doing the opposite, which is a plus 6. And now I have 9n. That one went away and became 0. And this is 18. Now I need to divide both sides by the coefficient of 9. And I end up getting n, or 1n, equals 2. So n equals 2. And once again, that matches up with what we got with Desmos. So that looks pretty good. All right, inequalities. Now we have some limitations when we do this with Desmos. We can actually put an inequality into Desmos, but we're going to solve this the same way. So we have 6 minus 4, parentheses, 6n plus 7, a squiggle, and 122. All right, so switching back over to Desmos. And 6 minus 4, parentheses, 6n plus 7, wiggle, 122. And we see we get negative 6. So we know it's a negative 6. We also know something else. This has a line underneath it. So since it has a line underneath it, it must be a solid. If it didn't have a line, it's a hollow, but we don't know which direction to draw the arrow. So now we're going to have to show our work, and so that we can get credit, and also so that we can graph it. So this gives me 6 minus 24n. And 4 times 7 is 28. So negative 28. And greater than or equal to 122. Notice I'm going back and using the same sign. All right, we can combine like terms. We can combine the 6 and the negative 28. So if I can combine those, I have negative 24n, and I combine these two, and that becomes negative 22 greater than or equal to 122. I need to add 22 to both sides. This becomes 0, and now I have negative 24n is greater than or equal to 144. All right, at this point, I'm going to divide by negative. We have to be really careful about this. First off, that becomes 1n. And 144 divided by negative 24 becomes negative 6. So when 1n, we know it's negative 6. That matches. So we've done our math right. But since I divided by negative, because of this, if I multiply or divide by negative at the end, I have to flip the sign. So this sign is going to change directions, and it's now a less than or equal to. So I'm drawing it this way, and this goes all the way to negative infinity. All right. So any number negative 6 or less is an answer. All right. So last one for the notes today. Once again, we're going to rewrite this so that it'll go into Desmos. So we have 28 minus 7n less than or equal to negative 4 parentheses negative 7n minus 7. Now the problem is I can't use this symbol. I'm going to have to come back and use a squiggle. All right, so there we go. So switching back over to Desmos. $28 minus 7n negative 4 parentheses negative 7n minus 7. Close those parentheses. Make sure I did that right. 28 minus 7n, negative 4, negative 7n minus 7. So I ended up getting 0 this time. All right, so my answer, I ended up getting a 0. So we'll write that up at the top because that's our check figure. Make sure we did it right. Once again, I have a line underneath. That means that's a solid. So this is getting a solid dot. If it did not have a line underneath, it would be a hollow. But since it does have a line, it has a solid. Okay, we know where it is, but we don't know which way to graph it. And we won't know until we solve it all the way. Plus, we have to show our work to receive credit. So 28 minus 7n less than or equal to, I have to distribute here. And so a negative times a negative is a positive. So this is a positive 28n. A negative times a negative is a positive. So this is a positive 28. All right, I need to move my variables to the left-hand side. So I'm going to subtract 28 from both sides, or 28n, because this is a positive 28, and the opposite of positive is negative. So this is 28 minus 35n less than or equal to 28. I need to move this to the other side. So I'm going to do that by opposite operations because even though it doesn't have a sign, it's positive. Whenever it doesn't have a sign, it's positive. So this becomes 0. And now I have negative 35n is less than or equal to 0. All right, some people think we're done right now because we have a 0, but we're not done. We can't stop until this is a positive 1. So I'm going to have to divide this by negative 35 and this by negative 35. Well, that's going to give me a negative divided by a negative is positive, so we'll have a 1n. 0 divided by anything is 0. But look, I'm dividing by negative. If you're dividing by negative, we have to switch the sign. So the sign is going to change directions. So my final answer is n is greater than or equal to 0. So we know it's pointing in this direction. And we can say that it's going off to positive infinity. All right. Appreciate you watching. Look forward to seeing you on the next one. Study for your test. Good luck.